I've done a lot of different types of editing, right? I started out as a book review editor for modern drama. I've guest edited special issues, edited theater journal, and co-edited book. And recently I've been on a large editorial team for an encyclopedia. So they all have somewhat different demands, but I guess, my general approach is I want to get the best possible material by the best possible people and get it in the best possible shape and kind of tie it together into something, larger than any individual entry, right? So how does this all come together? So that's, that's a general approach. A book, such as the book I co-edited with Lesley Ferris, Contemporary Women Playwrights into the 21st Century. I mean, that's on a much bigger scale, right? I think there are 16 chapters in there. And so a journal issue is smaller, right? So with theater journal, it's typically 5 essays per issue, sometimes 4, sometimes 6. And then an encyclopedia, well, the encyclopedia I've been working on is the Routledge Encyclopedia of Modernism, which is a massive interdisciplinary online resource. And so drama is a kind of subsection within that, and I'm one of a team. So that's a little different. But, with the book, you want to, there's the scale issue, it's bigger, and there's more of an expectation of coverage, right? There are things that you want to be in the book and that in fact must be in the book, right? I think one of the distinctive features of the Contemporary Women Playwrights book is its international diversity, and we were really committed to that, and we worked really hard to achieve that. And with a journal, because it's smaller and there's more of an element of chance. Everything in the book was commissioned. There was no call for papers circulated, whereas in theater journal, at least, typically for a special issue, 1 or 2 essays are commissioned. And the rest, there's that element of chance where you're circulating a call for papers with your fingers crossed, right? And sometimes you get some amazing surprises coming in. And it's like, God, I can't believe this is so great, right? And other times you really have to scramble a bit, right? And so that's one difference. And because a journal is smaller, it's more, there isn't that expectation of coverage, right? It's like, here are some things that are happening. Here are some things that people are thinking about, right? So you're kind of capturing currents of research, but you're not ever, I think, claiming to give the complete picture, right? Yeah. Not that we're trying to do that in the book, because there's still so much that could be there, except that, there's a page count, right, that you can't exceed. Well, there were a lot of parts that I really enjoyed. So there's like the conceptualization of a project, right? Like with Lesley Ferris, hey, there were good books on women playwrights in the 1980s, right? We need something updating that field, right? And that project started way back in Puerto Rico in 2009. We convened a working group at ASTR, and we did something different. We had everybody propose a play and write a short critical statement about it, a couple of pages, and then we all read the plays, and we read the critical statements, and that was kind of the beginning of our of our work on what came out in 2013 as a book. And there weren't a couple of people from the working session ended up in the book. But it was just not everybody, and it was a really good way to start thinking about the material that's out there, and what we might want to do in terms of, well, first there was a special issue of Theatre Journal, and then that went on to the book. So, and that whole process was great. It was really fun. We read fantastic material. We got really great essays in the special issue and then in the book. So that's really fun. And getting everybody to say yes when I asked them to do little entries for the Encyclopedia of Modernism, that was really fun. And as book review editor, there again, I really wanted to get the best possible people that I could get to review the books that looked to me to be most important. And most of the time people said yes. And so you get to read about a new book by somebody who knows, a lot about that area. So you see this kind of indirect conversation between the author of the book and the author of the review, and you really learn a lot. And same with a little thing like an encyclopedia entry, right? So I learned a huge amount from all the reading that I did, and from seeing readers respond to submissions. And when you edit people's work, I'm talking now not about the lining people up, imagining the table of contents, getting the work, but the technical part of editing, right? Where you have to kind of get inside the piece, like get in it and be in it, and then be really, figure out what it's trying to do and help it to do it better, right? It being the essay or the book chapter or whatever, and sometimes you think things are out of order, and if you restructure in this way, the argument will really pop, or this doesn't really belong here, it's a bit of a red herring. What happens if we take this out? That pops, something happens there. And, just the kind of hard work of line by line editing, right? So that wasn't the same kind of reading that I would do when I was reading submissions. There, I could do it with no pen in hand. I just read it, or, sometimes marking passages that were, interesting to me, and I could do it fairly quickly, right? But I kind of had to brace myself to do okay, this is accepted, I'm going to use this, and now I'm going to get it into publishable state. One of the things that I would say at those publication sessions is get to know the different journals and make sure you're sending your work to the right place, right? So every journal has a slightly different mandate. So Theatre Journal, for example, would sometimes get essays that were really about dramatic text, kind of literary analysis of dramatic text, which is not quite what Theatre Journal does. So, that kind of submission would have been better sent to something like Modern Drama. The other thing that, is really important for new scholars, I think, is to learn how to work with feedback, whether the feedback is initial feedback from the editors or whether it's an actual reader's report. So if an editor tells you to revise and resubmit, you shouldn't take that as a rejection.
Right.
You should take it as an expression of interest and listen to what they're saying and see if you can get your work to another level and resubmit it, because journal editors are always looking for good material.